Imagine stepping back to 1817, a pivotal year in American history, when the young nation stood on the brink of transformation. The War of 1812 had just ended, leaving a sense of fragile peace and boundless possibility. On March 4th, in the crisp Washington air, James Monroe took the oath as the 5th President of the United States. A veteran of the Revolution and a diplomat who had navigated the treacherous waters of European alliances, Monroe embodied the optimism of a country eager to heal its divisions. His vice president, Daniel D. Tompkins from New York, joined him in office, marking the seamless transition from James Madison's administration. This moment ushered in what historians call the era of good feelings, a rare period of political harmony where the Federalist Party faded into irrelevance, and Democratic Republicans dominated with little opposition. For Americans, it felt like a collective exhale after years of conflict, a time when the focus shifted from survival to growth. Monroe's vision was clear: expand the Republic westward, strengthen the economy, and secure borders against foreign threats. The nation, still recovering from the economic scars of war, buzzed with ambition. Farmers in the Ohio Valley dreamed of markets beyond the Appalachians. Merchants in New York eyed the vast interior, and settlers pushed into territories that promised land and opportunity. Yet beneath this unity simmered tensions over slavery, Native American rights, and the balance of power between states and the federal government. These undercurrents would shape the decades ahead, but in 1817, hope overshadowed doubt. One of the boldest strokes of that hope broke ground on July 4th, Independence Day, in Rome, New York. With a shovel in hand, Governor DeWitt Clinton initiated construction on the Erie Canal, a 363-mile engineering marvel designed to link the Hudson River to Lake Erie. Picture this: a ribbon of water slicing through forests and swamps, transforming muddy trails into a highway for commerce. At a cost of $7 million, funded by state bonds and private investment, the canal promised to slash shipping times from weeks to days and costs by 90%. Grain from Buffalo could float to Albany in under a week, then sail down the Hudson to Manhattan's bustling ports. This project wasn't just about boats and dirt. It symbolized America's faith in innovation and collective effort. By the time it opened in 1825, the Erie Canal would propel New York City to economic supremacy, fuel the Industrial Revolution in the Midwest, and accelerate westward migration. In 1817, as the first spadeful of earth turned, it whispered of a connected continent, where the dreams of pioneers could finally reach the sea. As the nation looked inward, it also gazed southward and westward, hungry for more territory. On December 10th, Mississippi joined the Union as the 20th state, carved from the vast Mississippi Territory, acquired in the Louisiana Purchase. This admission balanced the scales somewhat. Mississippi entered as a slave state, offsetting the free state of Illinois from the year before, but it underscored the growing sectional divide. Rich in cotton fields and river access, Mississippi's entry boosted the agrarian economy, with plantations along the Mississippi River exporting goods that fueled global trade. Yet it also displaced native tribes, setting the stage for the tragic Trail of Tears decades later. For Americans in 1817, statehood meant progress, a mosaic of stars added to the flag, each one a testament to manifest destiny's pull. But expansion wasn't always peaceful. Tensions erupted in Florida, then a Spanish colony harboring escaped slaves and Seminole tribes allied against American encroachment. On November 20th, the First Seminole War ignited when U.S. forces from Fort Scott raided the Seminole village of Foultown, just north of the border. What began as a skirmish escalated into a full invasion led by the fiery General Andrew Jackson. His troops pushed deep into Spanish territory, capturing Pensacola and executing 2 British subjects accused of aiding the Seminoles. This audacious campaign, though controversial, pressured Spain to negotiate. By 1819, it culminated in the Adams-Honest Treaty, ceding Florida to the United States for $5 million and clarifying the western boundary to the Pacific. From the American perspective, the war secured a strategic gateway to the Gulf, protected southern borders from raids and advanced the dream of continental dominance. Jackson emerged a hero, his actions foreshadowing his future presidency and the aggressive policies that would define Jacksonian democracy. Diplomacy tempered the saber rattling. On April 29th, in St. Petersburg, Russia, American envoy Richard Rush and British diplomat Charles Bagot signed the Rush-Bagot Treaty, a landmark agreement limiting naval armaments on the Great Lakes. Both nations pledged to maintain no more than a handful of small vessels for enforcement, effectively demilitarizing the shared border from New York to Minnesota. Born from the post-war détente after the War of 1812, this treaty eased fears of renewed conflict and fostered trust between former foes. For the United States, it freed resources for domestic growth, symbolized the shift from European entanglements to hemispheric focus, and laid groundwork for the peaceful boundary settlements of the 1840s. Sailors on those freshwater lakes could trade instead of fight, turning potential battlegrounds into arteries of commerce. Across the Atlantic and in the Americas, events rippled toward Washington, influencing Monroe's foreign policy. In South America, the independence movement surged. On February 12th, at the Battle of Chacabuco in Chile, forces led by José de San Martín and Bernardo O'Higgins routed the Spanish royalists, paving the way for Chilean and Argentine liberation. This victory, part of Simón Bolívar's broader crusade, weakened Spain's grip on the hemisphere. American observers watched closely. Newspapers in Philadelphia and Boston hailed the revolutionaries as kindred spirits, echoing their own fight against colonialism. Though the U.S. remained neutral, these triumphs inspired Secretary of State John Quincy Adams to craft what would become the Monroe Doctrine in 1823, warning Europe against recolonizing the Americas. In 1817, as envoys sailed south on fact-finding missions, the U.S. positioned itself as a protector of Republican ideals, boosting its moral authority on the world stage. Even whimsical tales captured the national imagination that year. In August, off Cape Ann, Massachusetts, fishermen and villagers reported sightings of the Gloucester sea serpent, a massive undulating creature gliding through the waves. Eyewitnesses swore it measured 80 feet, with a head like a snake and eyes like lanterns. The Linnaean Society of New England launched an investigation, collecting affidavits and sketches, turning folklore into pseudoscience. While debunked as likely a school of basking sharks, the frenzy reflected America's budding curiosity about the natural world, fueling the growth of institutions like the Academy of Natural Sciences in Philadelphia, which published its first journal that year. Technological sparks flew too, with indirect echoes across the ocean. On June 12th, in Germany, Karl Drais unveiled his running machine, the world's first bicycle, a wooden frame with pedals, propelled by foot power over cobblestones. Though rudimentary, it heralded a transportation revolution that would later speed American cities and countryside alike, from penny farthings to modern bikes. As 1817 drew to a close, the United States stood taller, its borders stretching, its economy stirring, its people united in purpose. Monroe's administration had laid foundations for an empire of liberty, from canal locks to treaty inks, yet the seeds of discord over land, labor, and power germinated quietly. This year wasn't just a footnote, it was a fulcrum tilting America towards superpower status. What if the Erie Canal had never been dug? Or if Jackson's raids had failed? Ponder those what-ifs, and you'll see how 1817 wove the threads of our shared story.